you do all of the pizza parties or you have breakfast in the office every single morning. None of that matters. Okay. You have all the smart locks, you have all the bells and whistles associated with your property. If you don't treat the residents as if they are the CEO of your property, then nothing else matters.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Commercial Real Estate Unfiltered. I'm your host, Caleb David, and we are here today with Teddy Abdelmalek, and he's a senior housing executive with over 25 years in operations, strategy, and business development. As Senior Vice President of Business Development at HH Redstone, he leads national expansion efforts across student housing, multifamily, and affordable housing markets. Previously, as the National Director of Business Development at Campus Life and Style, Teddy helped scale one of the industry's most respected third-party management programs. Teddy, thanks for being here. I'm looking forward to our conversation today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Caleb.
Yeah. So, Teddy, tell us a little bit about yourself. Like, how did you get into this space? And I always love hearing backstory.
No one grows up saying, "Hey, I want to manage apartments. I want to be in property management." It's not one of those industries in which it's like doctor, lawyer, engineer. But I would argue to say that more students are going to be featured into understanding and going that direction. Hey, I want to do something in real estate as one of those specialized careers as we look at the future, right? I got into privatized student housing and real estate again by accident in some regard. I was an RA at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, my alma mater. I did my bachelor's and my master's there. And I fell in love with the fact that I was able to help students and really be an advocate for them throughout their entire student development while they were with us at the university. I was an RA, and then I transitioned into managing the on-campus operations for one of our residence halls. And that transitioned again into privatized student housing. There was a development that was going in across the street from the property that I was managing on campus. It was a brand new development. It was a private public partnership with the university. And I was the liaison between the university and this private developer. And I became really good friends with the general manager over there. And then, like anything that happens, he got promoted and they were left kind of trying to figure out who was going to take his role,
Yeah.
right? And I was able to make the case that I probably be the best person to fill in that role given my experience and my relationship with the university, and
Yep.
I'd be able to take care of both kind of missions
Yeah.
with the students in mind. So
Yeah.
that was my very first step into private student housing, purpose-built student housing, leasing by the bed.
Mhm.
And I loved it. And I loved being in Kansas City, totally understood the market and the dynamics of the university. And to share a little bit with you, when I was on the on-campus side, we were more worried about the resident experience than occupancy, for example. We were more worried about how the student felt versus how much you spent on maintenance.
Yep.
And so when I got into purpose-built student housing, those were things that I had known about but wasn't necessarily a focus. So
Mhm.
I was able to really grow in that dynamic as I grew through my career. So I went from Kansas City to Bloomington, Indiana, to Arlington, Texas. I was single at the time, so like I was able to shift with the demand of where the industry needed me.
Yeah.
And I was a fixer of sorts. I would go into a property, fix the operations, not necessarily cosmetically, but operationally. There could be cosmetic fixes that a property needed, but essentially flipping the operational piece in one in which you're getting the correct talent, you're getting the right investment from the folks that are working with you, and you're all on the same page.
Yeah.
So using my student affairs background and really making it a place where people want to be versus just being a resident, paying rent,
Yeah.
and creating a culture. Like I said, Kansas City to Bloomington to Arlington, Texas to Morgantown, West Virginia to Eugene, Oregon, and then back to Lawrence, Kansas, the University of Kansas. I was really close back to home, was there for several years. And that's really what made up the 25 years of experience, all from operations to business development. Had a great time and met a lot of great people along the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is, gosh, what a unique niche this is, because this is a conversation I've never got to have before. So I'm curious, you talk a little bit about tier one and tier two universities, how they're outperforming flagship schools. Can you maybe break that down a little bit? And what are the difference between those?
Yeah, so like a tier one institution, for everyone that may not know what that is that it's an institution that is Power Five, top level university, like the Ohio State University, some of those big flagship universities, University of Austin, University of California, Berkeley, those are top tier one institutions, could be decimated by, delineated by enrollment counts. Typically, it's above 30,000 students and above, right? It warrants that tier one classification. And then when you get into tier two, it's more regional state schools, right? Could be like Georgia Southern, Missouri State, Texas State, Kansas State. And typically you'll see that there's a regional component to that. They are very close to being tier one in the fact that the investments that are made in tier two have tier one returns nowadays. And that's why institutional capital and other investors are looking at tier two. But honestly, tier two and tier three markets even are somewhat outperforming some of the flagship tier one markets, honestly, because it's really a combination of affordability, migration, and the perception of value that you get from those markets. So families and the students of today are getting priced out of those big name universities, right? And
Yeah.
students are realizing that they can get a quality education and a much personable college experience at some of these small regional schools without the six-figure debt that you would carry at a Florida International University, for example,
Mhm.
right? So you're seeing record enrollments at University or Georgia Southern, Statesboro, Georgia, Missouri State, Texas State, like I said, because they offer strong programs, the ability to have some efficiency and cost, and a
Mhm.
sense of community where the flagship campuses have started to lose some of that ground. Not that there's anything wrong with tier one, but you are going to be able to identify and be, people are going to know your name at a
Yeah.
tier two institution
Yeah.
versus a tier one. And University of Missouri, Kansas City, it's a regional school. I would argue it is tier two. It's definitely the university of choice, Kansas City. And I would say that's really positive for the area, given the fact that the Chiefs have put us on the map. I'm
Yeah.
sorry about the Broncos. You're from Denver, right?
I'm just south of Denver, so they haven't
Sorry
had
about
a
that. I
good
had
year
to
in a
I had to
while.
plug that in.
Of course. How do like housing supply constraints in these areas impact the investor's opportunity?
Yeah, many tier two and tier three markets, the supply pipeline just hasn't kept up with the enrollment growth, right? It's hard to get into a tier one market if you're a buyer, right?
Yeah.
And some of these buyers, these investors, don't want to be the top price. They don't want to have to bid well above
Yeah.
asking. If you're comparing it to someone buying a house, you don't want to have to pay full price.
Yeah.
And some, that's the whole reason why you're an investor. You're trying to get a deal and build value and build some real estate value for the investors that you represent,
Yeah.
right? And you got to look at schools that are adding thousands of students with only a few hundred beds coming online. So that dichotomy there.
Yeah.
And then often those are outdated or institutionally run product that you can add value to. They're considered, the word is value add.
Yeah.
What can I add to the property that will increase the value of that asset? So
Yeah.
the imbalance of the supply constraints and the ability for investors to come in. So the tier two and the tier three, like I said, creates such a sweet spot. And you're
Mhm.
going to start seeing this. People could disagree with me that no, tier one is where it is, it's where stability is. But you're going to start seeing tier two markets are going to become a sweet spot for investors. There's predictable demand,
Yeah.
right? Limited competition, and you're going to have a enrollment base that values well-managed properties and modern amenities.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's an amenities race at a tier one. Who
Yeah.
has the lazy river? Who has the basketball courts?
Yeah.
Who has the jumbotron? And I would argue that the students of tomorrow don't really care about the flashy amenities.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's becoming more academic related and purposeful.
Yeah.
Who has the smart boards and who has the conference rooms, and can I get 20 of my closest friends to come study with me at the place where I live? The huge conference rooms. Think of it like a WeWork on steroids
Mm.
mixed with student housing. That's
Yeah.
the student housing of tomorrow. That's what would excite me if I
Yeah.
was in their shoes. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as post-COVID, we've seen so much shift in how things work. For example, the office market, it's more about the experience than it is
Absolutely.
about having hardwall offices. Your traditional, you've got one conference room, you've got all these
Correct.
offices. It's more about that flexibility and the ability to go in between at different types of activities.
And that word, Caleb,
Yeah.
is hospitality
Yeah.
focused amenities, right? So,
Yeah.
like you said, in office, there's probably a coffee station where you can get a latte, a vanilla latte, right? That would have
Mhm.
not had been the case years ago. And so
Absolutely.
you see similarities in hospitality now transcending into student housing and multifamily assets, which is really exciting.
Yeah. So you talk a little bit about owner aligned management. Can you talk to me a little bit about that and what you talk about fixing the broken incentive problem?
Yeah.
I'd love to learn more about that.
Yeah, so typically traditional management fees are a percentage of gross potential income that's coming into the property. So you own an asset, it makes $5 million. I charge you a percentage of gross revenue that's coming into the asset, and that's what the management fee is, right?
Yeah.
I would argue that's misaligned because it's not taking into account the directive of watching my expenses. So if I'm just charging you on income, I can bring all the income, but if it takes me as much to run the property, then, the total product is negligible at the whole. You bring in 5 million, but if I spend 5 million running, you got zero. And
Yeah.
so I think it's a trade-off, right, between what you bring in, what you spend, and that's obviously called your net operating income, your NOI,
Yeah.
right? No other property management company in the space does what we do, right? Everyone, including the people I used to work for, are all looking at the amount of revenue you bring in. You bring in $5 million, I'll pay you on that, right? Minus bad debt and collections and all that, right? What we advocate and preach, and literally we have to preach it because no one else does it in the space, and it becomes an owner alignment in the fact that when the property is successful, we'll be successful. We're talking about, yeah, maybe there's a base management fee that is in line with making the machine, the platform run.
Yeah.
Maybe we've come to an agreement on what that base management fee is. But when I achieve or exceed that net operating income that we both agree on because we're both in conversation about what that budget looks like, then I get paid handsomely on the back end.
Yeah.
And you would want to do that as an owner because if you're paying me handsomely on the back end, that means your property is successful.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
And so, all too often, the incentive in the management fee is tied directly to occupancy, right? You get me to 100%, you get me to 95%, then I'll pay you an incentive. The problem with that is I can get you to 100% if every apartment is $100,
Yeah.
$200.
Yeah.
And sometimes property management companies become lazy. It's a tough market. They advocate that they have to drop rates. They have to do hundreds of thousands of dollars in concessions,
Yeah.
all because they see that the light at the end of the tunnel is occupancy, which it isn't. I'd rather sometimes have a property be 80% with a much higher NOI or a satisfied NOI
Yeah.
that is in line with what the owner wants than give away the farm, set a precedent with the market that I'm going to drop rates and I'm going to basically give in to dropping rates and concessions, which dilutes the market, right? Dilutes the whole idea of real estate. So I'd rather do that than be 99% at a much lower rental standpoint. And there's still creative ways to give things and concessions and be able to provide a bonus and or a savings to the residents without dropping a rate. You can do giveaways. You can
Yeah.
do some pretty top prestigious gifts as
Mhm.
well, which doesn't erode your bottom line
Yeah.
either. It would hit marketing. It would hit your expense side, but your rental income is secure. And when you're looking at maintaining that presence in the market and showing the value of your unit, you're not eroding that number by saying, oh, I'm going to give you 2 to 3 months off for free. What happens when that resident wants to live with you again the following year? Hey, can you give me that two
Right.
to 3 months free that you gave me before?
Yeah.
Oh, no, we're not doing that. Okay, I think I'm gonna leave.
Yeah. Yeah. It's about setting expectations and actually there being a
Absolutely.
value proposition there.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's almost like you almost create your own precedent and your own issues by not having the right marketing and the right operator and the right partner from a management standpoint.
Yeah.
If everyone is aligned on the same mission, I'm probably less inclined to recommend a rate drop or something that wouldn't get me to the promised land
Yeah.
versus looking internally and saying, okay, what can I do different as the manager of this property to
Yeah.
get us where we need to be?
Yeah. So speaking of that, how can institutional investors better evaluate that alignment when hiring a management company?
Yeah, it's simple. It's one question that you ask. What happens if the property underperforms? And if the answer is nothing changes, there's your red flag, right?
Yeah.
What happens if the property underperforms?
Yeah.
Alignment means that the risk and the reward are shared.
Yeah.
Basically, as a property management company, we'd essentially be working for free if we didn't get to where we said we were going to do. We're not just, a lot of people say, we are the best, we can do it, we will get you to where you need to be, we will get you fully leased up. Okay, well, put your money where your mouth is. Share in that risk.
Yeah.
All too often, they're property management companies and they're not partners.
Yeah.
Okay, I want the owners of real estate to feel as if I have an equity stake in the deal. I don't have an equity stake in the deal, but I want you to
Right.
feel
Yeah.
like I have an equity stake in the deal. And so, how do I do that? Well, I say, hey, I'm going to manage your property for a base fee to make my machine run. I'm
Yeah.
not making any money on that. That's to essentially turn on the platform and then when you are successful, I will be successful. That's owner alignment. That's shared
Yeah.
risk and reward, right? When institutional investors are evaluating that alignment, they should look for transparent reporting. Where are those KPIs that you say you're going to be at?
Mhm.
And operators who put real dollars behind their promise.
Yeah.
And that's what I would say would be what it actually means to have a property management partner.
Yeah. Yeah. And so obviously students come from all over. A lot of these tier two probably have people that are local. There's also international students. What's the opportunity that's available tapping into the international enrollment trends?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So HH Redstone Property Management has a international presence. We have an office in key global cities that tap into Indian, Chinese, and Korean students, right? And an international enrollment is rebounding really fast, right? You've probably heard international enrollment was down given the political headwinds of what was going on with international students and visas. My what I'm here to tell you is international enrollment is coming back and it's coming back quickly. And it's not just China or India anymore. It's Latin America, it's the Middle East, it's Africa, it's Europe, right? These students are often paying full tuition, arriving early, staying longer, and for us as housing operators, that means consistent, reliable tenants who value safety, quality, and convenience of these prestigious universities in the United States, right?
Yeah.
And so Redstone has an international arm that directs these international students directly to the properties that we help manage and own. We've essentially leased up our properties solely with international students, believe it
Wow.
or not. And our ability to do that as a part of the management fee is unprecedented as well.
Mm.
Like you essentially, Caleb, let's say you own a property in the United States, you essentially could hire an international broker to advocate your property to specific students
Yeah.
internationally, but you're going to pay roughly a percentage of your rent to
Yeah.
that broker. So let's say the rent you would receive from that tenant is, call it 12,000 a year. Let's say the rent is 1,000 per month, 12 months, $12,000. You could essentially be paying up to 1 month's worth of rent for that international broker to bring you a lease. And that in of itself erodes
Yeah.
your rental rate growth, it erodes your NOI because as you could probably imagine, you're like, yeah, bring me people, but maybe I would want to limit how many people you bring me at
Right.
the end of the day.
Right.
Now, when you have us as your partner, that sort of mentality and that process is built into the management fee that we already do for you. Again, that owner alignment, of course we want you to be successful. We're
Yeah.
going to be sending people your way because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, we're both going to win,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so that's beautiful at
Yeah.
the end of the day, that we have the ability. And I can't say that I know of another property management company that has an international directed arm that assists in that. I would say that is probably very proprietary to our business model
Yeah.
at the end of the
But
day.
it's almost like a built-in pipeline, right?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What are some key differences between student and multifamily operations that are often overlooked?
Yeah, and I would argue multifamily is going this way because of that hospitality piece. The biggest difference in student and multifamily is how the lease is broken up. In student, it's a lease per bed, and
Yeah,
in multifamily, it's a joint and several lease,
yeah,
right? And there are still some multifamily properties that are joint and several, but they're in student markets and they fit the academic calendar, right? And so a purpose-built student housing property fits the academic calendar and the lease is by the bed. And the advantage to leasing by the bed is that, Caleb, you and I are in a two-bedroom, two-bath situation, right? I got roommate matched with you. Again, another benefit to student housing. You don't necessarily share in the risk management of the lease, meaning if I don't pay my rent,
mhm,
nothing happens to you,
right,
right? It's
right.
solely the risk is on me to perform the financial piece of my lease, right? And that's the advantage, right? We want to live together. I don't know you, and your roommate matched with me. And so I don't want to obviously be held financially
Yeah,
to any challenges that you or I may run into.
yeah,
And a lot of parents and guarantors love that because they're guaranteeing the lease for their son or
right.
daughter. And some parents are still like somewhat hesitant. What about if the roommate breaks something in the common area? I don't want to be held.
Yeah,
So there's opportunities in student housing to do like a guarantor waiver program, which adds additional revenue to the property and it takes the guarantor out of that. There's different partners that we work with on the vendor side that offer services that are exclusive to student housing.
Yeah.
But I would say the parents and the students of today are very well traveled. And to your point, their expectations are way beyond what we did or
Yeah.
what we had when we were in school. They're already visiting five-star hotels and
Mm.
resorts and items around the world. They're experiencing that. So they know the value of the money that they're putting into those experiences.
Yeah.
So then they come to us, right? They come to properties in student housing. And let's say it's an older property, right? Is that expectation there? They're walking into the property and the person at the front desk is in PJs and they look like a hot mess and they rolled out of bed. Yeah, how do you think that's going to be received?
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because that is the front door to the property and the first impression. And it's like, what do you do? You're about to drop off your son or daughter at these properties. Maybe this is the first time your son or daughter is leaving home. It creates a little bit of anxiety. It's okay, this is the person that my son or daughter is going to go to if they have an issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, again, it's that philosophy.
Yeah.
It's about creating an experience that is in line with the expectations, like you said, that is of student housing. Multifamily, it's a little bit, it's not as, it's more tolerable on the multifamily side, but I would argue that multifamily is quickly becoming more hospitality focused and more program based, to tell you the truth. We do resident programming in student housing. I would say that very similar to senior housing. People
Yeah.
want to be included and they want to be part of a community at the end of the day. If I didn't want to be part of a community, I'd just go buy a house,
Right.
right?
Right.
And please don't bother me. Like
Right.
I live by myself. So I would argue community building is indicative of all the asset classes, whether it be affordable, senior, regular market rate, multifamily, or student housing.
Yeah.
But one thing is indicative of all that, and this is my personal philosophy that I've brought to the executive leadership at HH Redstone. I have this phrase that states that the residents are your CEO, right?
Mm.
And if you treat the residents as if they are the owners of the property,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if you have all the flashy amenities or you do all of the pizza parties or you have breakfast in the office every single morning. None of that matters. Okay. You have all the smart locks, you have all the bells and whistles associated with your property. If you don't treat the residents as if they are the CEO of your property, then nothing else matters.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they don't feel valued. The
Mm.
same way, like if you know the owner of the property is going to come and visit your property
Yeah.
and do a visit, you're cleaning up.
Yep.
You're cleaning up the trash and you're making sure that the party from the night before, the halls are clean and the trash bins are not overflowing and everyone's prim and proper, everyone looks great, right?
Yeah.
But these residents are living with you every single day and you don't do that. That's the issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the value that is being missed. And we take that to such a detailed approach that we tell that to our staff. We train our staff into understanding that it doesn't matter if Teddy's visiting your property. The executive leadership is not who you should be trying to impress. Impress your residents, and
Yeah.
everything else will fall in line,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Doesn't
And
that make sense?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely makes sense. And on that hospitality note, I think I'd be a little bit remiss to talk about how technology plays into this. What are some technologies that are moving the needle to help you accomplish this experience?
Yeah, the buzzword of AI is definitely there, and you're able to really take some of the mundane tasks and some of the tasks that are don't allow us to interact with our residents, and you're giving that to AI,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
Whether it be tasks that are related to just simple questions, you're able to train those AI agents to answering, and you're able to train them, believe it or not, Caleb,
Yeah.
into answering just like you would train a new hire. You're able to train them on specific questions that are being answered with the ability for a human to take over the conversation as needed. But what my point is, you're instituting that technology for one reason and one reason only, to be able to be more present in front of your customer
Yeah.
the end of the day. That's why we do whatever. And so that's from smart locks being able to be more prevent people from being locked out of their apartment. Nowadays, you can use your phone.
Mhm.
It could be biometric. It could be a code on the door. There was a vendor I had interacted with, and the entire door module doesn't even have a battery
Hmm.
anymore. It's just a door module.
Wow.
And you know how like you charge your iPhone with Q
Yeah.
charging, right? It's the reverse of that. It's reverse engineered,
Hmm.
takes a little bit of power from your iPhone or from your smartphone, and
Huh.
it powers the door lock through encryption and using your cellular signal, and it unlocks the door because the credentials all match. Is that not the craziest
That's
thing you've ever heard?
crazy. That's insane.
I was just like, that's smart,
Yeah.
smart technology.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the property would have spent probably hundreds of thousands of dollars with the infrastructure associated with making sure that there's a Wi-Fi, a
Mhm.
hotspot close enough to that door, and
Yeah.
then the batteries associated with that door. So when we're looking at instituting technology at our assets, the one question that we keep asking ourselves is, will it make us be able to be more present in front of our residents? And is there an ability for it to add convenience
Yeah.
to our residents?
Yeah.
Be
Yeah.
more present, and is there a convenience factor? There's always a cool factor, but
Yeah.
does it add value and convenience to the resident?
Not just a gimmick.
Not just a gimmick. How
Absolutely.
it's, oh, that's great, but does it add value?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
yeah, these innovations are ending up sometimes being more of a marketing hype than actually a financial value. And anything that looks pretty but doesn't really solve anything for you,
Yeah.
like you got these flashy virtual tours, but resident apps that are clunky and sometimes don't work, or these smart gadgets that no one uses but cost a lot of
Right.
money to adopt. It's not innovation at that end. It's overhead. It's called overhead.
Yeah. I love that. I love that.
That's really when let's stop just instituting every single innovation that comes through the door, make sure that it actually solves a
Yeah.
pain point. And I tell you, we just signed an agreement with Lease Magnets. And Lease Magnets is this curated virtual tour of an actual person filmed
Mm.
that takes in the old days, like when you would watch something and they're trying to sell you on this, I don't know, this timeshare, and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
glamorous, but they're showing you're like, wow, I want to be there.
Yeah.
Yes, I want a vacation there. It's a similar aspect, but it's so personable, and you get to choose how the tour is ran. Hey, I want to go see this next, and you click on that. And it's a curated leasing virtual tour.
Mm.
It's quite amazing.
Wow.
It's quite amazing and it's cutting edge. And I feel like instead of someone having to visit your property physically, it's a good first step
Yeah.
into understanding the culture and what the property offers.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Great company, by the way. I would definitely, if that should definitely be a piece of technology that you institute at your asset.
That's awesome.
Yeah, of
Thanks for peeling back like the veil a little bit on student
course.
housing and how that affects the real estate market. But Teddy, how can people, where do they find you? How do they connect with you?
Yeah, definitely I'm on LinkedIn, but my email address is pretty simple. It's teddy@hhredstone.com. We would just love the opportunity. I was brought on to HH Redstone to scale our third-party property management arm of the business. And what that means is we want to help other owners of real estate with their projects and with their assets. And it doesn't mean that I want to take on all the deals under the sun. We want to be methodical and we want to be the best option for them if it makes sense.
Yeah.
We want to be the operator for an asset that we know we can be successful at. And we're not going to want to just take on any deal. We want to take on deals that we have a shared vision and a shared plan, and we know we both can be successful, and it makes sense to the owner at the end of the day. Though, like I said, that alignment is key to the success of their assets. We deliver institutional grade operations and management solutions, like I said, for student housing, multifamily, and affordable housing owners. There's obviously a commercial retail space to that as well on our properties, but if they have retail or mixed use, that could be a function of it as well. That owner aligned partnership model prioritizes performance, transparency, and resident satisfaction at the end of the day.
I love that. Teddy, thanks so much for being with us today. I
Thank you so
really
much,
appreciate your
Caleb.
time and expertise.
Thank you so much. Appreciate for you having me on your show.
Absolutely. Have a great one, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
If today's episode gave you valuable commercial real estate insights, subscribe, rate, and share it. Connect with me and the David Commercial Real Estate team through the show notes. Remember, real estate is more than buildings, it's about building community. See you next time.